Some of them, I'm getting people from over there. I gotta say hi to everybody.
I came in from work. I mean, I should have.
That's why I've got to sell coyote.
What?
I said, that's why I sell. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'm going over to my cousins. They talk about them all the time.
You're gonna be at my
I
dad's?
did.
Yes. Good. And Jake and I talked about it before. Good. I told him what, you know, what I was gonna do, and he said, I was hoping he'd say that.
It'll all work out. I don't know quite how, but it will.
The marina associate.
Everybody will walk away
Ours,
with
ours,
it.
yeah, I'm an official.
In a month, we're all.
I have a question. I have a question. I was at the last city council meeting with Brian. What are you supposed to do with the children's school? Nothing the city would like to do.
My dad's late.
There is no
Play, I don't know when we're gonna
The
figure it
ordinance
out.
says that
So the mayor's like 4 or 5 miles away.
if the dog is dangerous,
I heard it at the scope down there, well,
there's a process you have to go through. I can't just go there and shoot it. If the bike's
get
blocked,
rid of the idea of it going around.
I had one a year ago.
Because there's a back wall.
That when I went to I got a report of
So
the
all of the
condition.
blood goes out of that.
I went to the house.
So it's leaking badly. And then
When I got out of the car, they
fills
came
up
down
her
and they
lungs
started to
and
growl
she's gonna drown.
like that. They ran away. Then the lady came on the third day.
No, this was her annual
I
check.
can't take off.
She came back
You
with
got dead and had to go get shots and
No, I didn't make a big thing out of it,
she didn't
but I
feel
told her
like she
the
had no
dogs need to be gone.
uneasiness or nothing. Yeah, anything was wrong.
But, yeah,
No, she thought, she was feeling really good. She thought, clean bill of health and we'll go on, you know.
so I
Something couldn't happen.
pulled my pistol out. And get ready to shoot the dog.
The one
I just thought to myself, this not gonna happen, you know, coming onto somebody's property, you know, it's kind of this property, you don't shoot, so I just shot it, and took off. Okay, where's your gun? And I told the lady, I said, what just happened here? Could you imagine if that was a 5-year-old?
Yep.
Okay, or somebody that didn't have the means to protect themselves?
If you pass
So that girl, that's all you could go, she called me a few hours later, she said, went there, well, she brought one back. What happened for a while, and she was finding out. I don't hear nothing. I don't know, investigate stuff, because what happened a month ago. I went once, it was gone, satisfied, so.
I'm concerned about the
7:30, 8 o'clock at night, sheriff's gonna
but he
don't
works
get
6
them.
days a week.
come to.
So I go,
So he only gets,
and
you know, a day and a half to work on it, and also have blood.
the neighbor,
Usually going slow. He got one lady.
that same dog that was supposed to be gone, bit the neighbor's farm. So it got shot. So,
That's what I was asking, I thought she was doing something.
well, I looked at her and I said, you know, this,
Well, he has, radiant control.
now you know the dog. Now you can provide it for the medical. So, what did you accomplish?
We just went on the weekend.
Now,
I know.
this girl has had 3 litters since I've been on this So. I got her. I got her not for free. I mean, I put up the $20 copay. For her to get a voucher to get the door.
I didn't make the phone calls I said I was going to make.
This is a one-way street.
Just to save the city.
That's a stressful time, no matter what portion of it you're involved in. It's boring when there's nobody coming through. It's
Hey, Mitzi,
yes.
Who's driving the little red car?
you got your handicap sticker?
What?
Your handicap sticker? Is it in the window?
It's probably laying on my,
Well, as long as you got it, that's fine.
oh yeah, it's there.
She's got it.
It's there, I
Making
just
sure it
forgot
wasn't
to pull
somebody
it
that
out.
wasn't
It's in the compartment next to my
He was just checking, because someone was checking.
He wanted to park
Oh,
close.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she's got one.
It's in there,
It's fine.
it's in the pocket next to my seat.
It's in the little one.
Write her a ticket.
Ride her up.
As a matter of fact, I got another one in my purse. I'll show him that one.
That's all right, 'cause it needs to be hanging from the rear mirror.
Yeah, I am the shady character for sure. Yeah, I can't deny it.
I looked at my license the other day and I was driving on a bad license for 6 years.
Oh, really?
They kind of forgot about it when you had a surgery.
Oh, yeah, you were ill.
So we went down the other day and I told the lady behind the
Just
counter,
walk right by me.
I have my license again. She said, okay, go in front of the camera.
Oh, she didn't make you take a test?
I told her the same story about an animal.
No fines, no
Archer
fees.
there, yeah, how we've been out down for months and.
We didn't have to say anything.
Well, this is the first time I've seen you in months.
Yeah. I've been staying home.
Glad to see you're out and doing stuff
Out
again.
and about. I don't know, it just got too easy. Lay on the bed and
Well, I can appreciate wanting to do that some days, you know. I find I sit in front of my computer a lot more.
What do you do?
Oh, as little as possible.
Well, hi, guy.
So you went to that, So with the blue eyes?
Oh, I'm pretty much open in the afternoon.
So, his name is Axel.
Yeah.
I named him Axel. He's not a bulldog, he's a boxer. Oh, yeah? I've got a couple of black lab puppies over there.
I'll send you a text. How about that?
They look like they're mostly black lab. I got two coming in a couple of days. That are really nice looking dogs too. I tried to get the pit bull
Yeah, I know.
rescue to take some of the ones that we had
Send you a text, see if you got it.
last year, and they were like, there's just too many. It's everywhere. And we're getting dogs don't feel right. It's actually getting insane.
Well, we need to have a meeting with full proprietors, because they have nothing.
Neither does Sugar,
So,
and neither does Lizard. If it wasn't for eye care, which is private now.
doesn't Sharp have Cherokee Village?
Yeah, but that's like us in Lizard County. That's for the city of Cherokee Village, not for the county.
Well, they don't do the whole county, I thought they did. You know, they've got over 40 dogs.
Yeah.
They just put a big, they got a grant, and they just put another building.
Remember your family.
That's not a grant. Okay, this isn't a meeting. It's me telling you where I believe things are at as the mayor. I'll get this over as quick as I can. It's not a question and answer period. So let me start with the beginning of 2025 for me. On January 2nd, 2025, the new council was sworn at 6 p.m. And their first order of business was to do a meeting, which wasn't a legal meeting. And everybody got very angry with me about that. I ended up calling the city attorney to stop the meeting. So then the next evening, we did have a meeting. That was a legal meeting. And at that meeting, they passed the infamous 2025-01. I don't believe most people know what that is, and I don't believe they've read it because it wasn't published for a long time. When it was published in fine print. But it did one really simple thing. It took the authority of the mayor to hire and fire city employees, and it gave it to the recorder treasurer. Now, there's not a lawyer I haven't talked to that has not told me that's unconstitutional. There's no right to do that. And I do have the original ordinances. I know Brian has always said, oh, no, the recorder treasurer always had the power to hire and fire people. That's not true. The original ordinance from 1993 all it says for line O is evaluate office employees on a regular basis. That's the original line from the original ordinance. And that's a long ways from hire and fire clerks, bookkeeper, water department, receptionist, animal control, code enforcement, and any other staff not specifically otherwise designated. So basically, you've got a number of people running the city, and it's not me. Now, the problem with that is, and we found when we went to court over the Mandreas, technically I can't sue the council. Any of you people can, because it's your votes that they nullified by doing that. Okay, you voted for a mayor, and here I sat. I don't think you voted for anybody else to be the mayor, and that's what that ordinance did. Made somebody else your mayor. That's something I think you ought to think about. So that's the first ordinance that I've had to deal with. So when you see, and you're going to hear a lot about hirings, firings, the amount of salaries that people are being paid, I didn't have anything to do with that whatsoever. Okay, moving along. Next thing that happened was I had designated, we had split Parks and Rec. We had made the person who was the golf superintendent a department head, and we had made the person in charge of Parks and Rec a department head, which put them under the mayor. Even under the regular law, puts them under the mayor. I wanted to meet with them over how much money was going to be spent. There's always been a ton of money spent at the golf course, and it's always been very hard to track where it's gone and how much it's really done is good. That was the next thing that happened, was an illegal meeting when I was supposed to meet with these two people, and we had 2, 4, 5 councilmen invade my office, which was a private meeting. That's also an illegal meeting and an illegal thing to do. Anyways, I did give them the memos. There's a lot of other stuff that I can't talk about because that's involved in a court case. And that's going to come up a number of times as far as court cases, investigations, and whatever. All right, the next ordinance, 2025-02. This is the one that established your fee. Now, I can't even believe how many times people have spread disinformation about this whole thing. Yes, our council was going to pass this ordinance in its original form, but then we were going to modify it. And believe me, it needed to be modified. It never was. But we never passed it or even thought about passing it at $80. That's ridiculous. Now, that may not be a big fee for people that live on the lake that have some money, but for the people that live in the trailer park, that's a lot of money when you're on Social Security at $800 a month, or maybe $1,200, and you've got one extra lot. So now your fee goes from $41 from MRID and $34 for an empty lot to $160. That's a lot of money for some people, and I don't think anybody really thought about the effects of that. There was never a hardship clause put in there, where if you are on a fixed income like that and you don't have the money, you could pay a lower fee, and that's a reasonable thing to do. We see that all the time. If you're under the poverty level, does anybody know what the poverty level is? Any ideas? Well, that's, I was going to say, for a married couple, but they list it between $18,000 and $22,000. If you're below that, you're in poverty. That's what they consider. I've got a lot of grants. Well, all right. The problem is you're going to get different numbers from different figures. That's from the grant perspective is what I'm giving you, because that's one of the problems that we run into getting grants in Horseshoe Bend, and I've got a number of grants because we have two populations. We have one population that really is in poverty, in which there's a ton of grants available for you, then we have a very rich population that lives around all our lakes. And that brings our overall incomes just at the border of 51%. That's the cutoff. If you're above that, they don't want to give you the money. If you're below it, you get the money. And of course, it's census data, so once it's established, it's hard to get them to take a second look. The other problem I've ran into doing grants, you cannot get grants if your city is under litigation. There's certain grants that literally tell you, we lost a really good drug grant, that they basically said, no, you can't have this money, the opioid money, because you're under litigation, your city's being sued. That hurts the city. All of this stuff has hurt this city. I mean, truth is, we're pretty much the laughing stock of Arkansas. Everybody knows what's going on here. And we know that when we look at the figures, because if we assume that there's really 2,500 people here, which there isn't, we've easily lost almost 100 people in just the last year alone. If there's not 2,500 people here, we average between 5,000 and 7,000 people watch our meetings. So somebody's watching. I know some people in Little Rock are watching. I know people that are watching these meetings. Some people watch it for entertainment, and some people watch to find out what's going on. And we aren't doing ourselves any favors whatsoever with the way we're doing this. The problem with 2101 is it destroys the system of checks and balances. You are supposed to have a mayor. That mayor is supposed to have full reign and access to the finances and to the people that are employed and not employed. And really, Arkansas law pretty much says that. The problem with 2502, it's too much money for people to pay. And the way it was structured and set up, it was a nightmare when it was rolled out in the first place. The ordinance says you're supposed to pay by lot. The company they hired sent the bills out by parcel number. So if lots were combined, you got a different bill than per lot. And of course, once you've paid that bill, you've paid the bill and you've established it. It's kind of like when you find a mismarked item in a store, if the price is lower, they got to sell it to you for that. Or if it's higher, you're going to pay higher for it. The reason I went with $40 as a fair fee, yes, it allowed some of the people that have money to pay less of a fee, but it only charged people for vacant lots and people that didn't have money $6 more. That's all we were raising their prices. A vacant lot was $34. Add 6 to it, that's $40. I don't care what kind of a house you have on it. That's more than fair enough to pay for these amenities, because the amenities should be paying for themselves. And we need to come up with ways to do that. That's one of the things that I focused on the first 2 years, was anything we did, we tried to make more money with it, to generate some level of income. Even if you can't pay for all of it, any income whatsoever makes a huge difference as far as taking the city forward, doesn't keep draining the city finances. And that becomes a problem. And when you read the key part of this bill here, it says a reasonable fee. And that fee is supposed to be redone every year. Now, I was very clear what my intentions were. We were going to start collecting $40 as a fee, and this year it should have been dropped to $25. Had we kept the golf fees, had we grown the golf course, it would have been a lot closer to paying for itself. Now, I don't know if it will ever totally pay for itself, but it's a lot easier for a city to come up with $100,000 than to come up with thousands and thousands of dollars. And all that money that's being generated, that's where it's going. It's not being spent appropriately, and that's one of my biggest disappointments with all of it. I don't have a problem with people spending money. I spend money in my own life. But you need to do it reasonably, and you need to think about how you're spending, and that's not happening in this situation. So we need to redo that ordinance. We need to revisit all of that, and I think that's a problem. as far as the people. And my understanding is there's a whole group of people that have not paid it, they're not going to pay it, and they do have attorneys. So now we're back into another litigation situation. That's going to hurt the council, that's going to hurt the city, it's going to hurt everybody. Hurts in grants, hurts in reputations. And I've had people tell me, oh, I was thinking of moving to Horseshoe, then I looked at what was going on there. I try rarely to comment on social media, but every time I open my big mouth, sometimes I do. But some of the stuff that's said here in social media is such trash and such ridiculous stuff. And most of it, it's not something that you would actually say to the person's face. I mean, that's the biggest problem with social media. And that's a problem for everybody, not just the people that are on it, and kids. I mean, it's a huge problem with kids. I was so happy to see that court case where they adjudicated the suicide. Suicide rate of adolescent girls has gone up 200% since we have the internet. It's a statistical fact. You can trace it. Unbelievable what kids go through. I can't imagine kids that have to live with that. Okay, so then the other problem we run into is the monies and the transfers of money. That's supposed to be watched very carefully because they're not supposed to be mixed. The judge was very clear that separate accounts should be done for this stuff. In the transfer of that money, there has been mistakes made with the amount that's being transferred. And I know people have referenced to me that there's a $22,000 mistake floating in that money. We should look for that mistake. So then the next thing we get into, when we start taking money and talking about money, court cases, lawsuits, what's it cost the city, what's actually going on here. We're obviously moving into an election year. So everybody points fingers and everybody's going to say he did it and they did it and somebody else did it. But the facts are the people who cost the money, their names are right on the lawsuits. You don't have to look very far in terms of who's costing the money in the city. When we look at the first lawsuit that started, it was over getting rid of MRID. And I know that's a sad bone of contention for a number of people because we needed to do that. Now, there's still a whole group of people that don't agree with that, and I understand that. But there's the attorneys that were involved in it, and including the judge, realized that had that case gone through, had we not done a settlement, this city would have been bankrupt. We would have had to cough up about $208 million. We only have $300.2 million for the whole assets of the city. It would have bankrupted the city. And that's why the attorneys demanded that we do a settlement. In fact, they locked us all in a room for, I don't know what, almost 16 hours, Ray, or some crazy thing like that. We were in rooms and attorneys were going back and forth and do you agree to this and what about that? And if he does this and what about that? And it's an experience. But we did come to a settlement. The problem is, once the settlement was done, it was all appealed. And that cost the city. Okay, the retainer for the law firm recommended by the city attorney. I didn't pick these people, never met them before in my life. The city attorney recommended these people. $11,000 retainer to take it to the appellate course, another 18 grand. That's money that's gone. We won't ever see that. And again, the appellate court agreed. I, as the mayor, had the authority to put those people in charge. That law allows for that. That was a huge waste of money for all of us to go through that. Shouldn't have happened. So then the next one, the writ of mandamus. Oh my God. This one really makes me sick because everybody involved, Brian Miller, the whole council, Brad Sipes, even Drew Smith, knew I was working with Senator John Payton to get a ruling from the Attorney General on me vetoing some of these things that I have to sign them. Now, what the law actually says is I have to authenticate them. The problem is these ordinances were all written up and it says that the mayor approves them. I don't approve of this stuff. I don't approve of any ordinances. I don't approve of the ordinance for the fee. It's too high. I don't approve of throwing people off committees with ordinance. Should have never been done. Now somebody said, oh no, it was only one that was like that. Here's 29 ordinances right here that all say approved by the mayor. And that's what I was arguing. And had we waited, okay, and I do have a letter. I'm not going to show you this letter, but it was sent to John Payton and myself. Somebody dropped the ball, and they didn't get that carried forward the way it should have. That's what was taking so long. We didn't get an opinion. Had we waited, we would have got an opinion for nothing. But what it ended up costing the city, $13,000 and change. Gone, out the window. We can't spend money like this. We are not a rich city. The Rockefellers don't live here. They were up in Bentonville. Okay, the Roosevelts didn't come to the hot springs here. That was Hot Springs. We don't have that kind of money to just throw it in the wind and burn it up. For the first 2 years that I ran this city, we were within budget. We put $50,000 in a capital reserve, and we added two $25,000 money market funds. We don't have that kind of money now with the way money's being spent here. I can tell you that for a fact. But the writ of mandamus, nobody won. Brian said, well, we won. No, they lost. The judge was very clear. You can't force the mayor to approve of something he doesn't approve of. And I also refused to sign a check that I felt there was, how do I say this? It was nefarious. That's the best word. I refused to sign it. That is being investigated now, but I don't want to get into any of that. I mean, I was here for 2 years before. I never had to not sign a check. What the judge said and what the law actually says, I have to authenticate these. So now, I agree with the judge. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, the judge suggested we put a line that says passed, another line that says the mayor vetoed, the date, the council overread, the date, and the deposition of it, the last date. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I went over and talked with, at that time it was Christine Johnson, the deputy clerk, and said you need to start in January. Let's start redoing the ordinances and the resolutions, and let's get them signed. And let's put those 4 slots. I don't have a problem with it. I don't believe the council would either. And we should do that, and we should get this stuff done and get it documented in the book. The biggest concern, too, was that if people pull these ordinances, I want them to know they were vetoed, and a copy of the veto should go with the ordinance. So people can read why I decided to do this. This wasn't, oh, gee, I didn't like the way it was, so I just decided to veto it. There's real reasons. Sometimes there's law cited of why I decided to do that. That should be there for the people to read. Okay, so the writ of mandamus. Oh yeah, the only other thing I wanted to talk about too is on that first lawsuit that cost 20 grand plus change, the names in that lawsuit, Bo Chevalier, McLean James, Josh Jackson, Michelle Sanders Grabowski, and the MRID commissioners. They combined 2 cases. That's what cost you that money. So now I want to talk about, well, yeah, I guess I could talk about this quick too. To date, I think there's been 32 or 33 ordinances passed. They've been in office less than a year and a half. The first 2 years, we didn't pass more than 23 ordinances for 2 years. That's the difference. It's a huge difference in what you're doing and how you deal with stuff. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is the 200-foot building. Again, a waste of money. We had full insurance money to replace that whole building from the fire. So we could have had a brand new 200-foot building. But the council decided, no, we only need half the building. Now, we do have lots of space in those other cart sheds up there, but those are cart sheds. This was a 200-foot building. Could have been an archery range for kids. Could have been a lot of things. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm so smart that I know 5 years from now, one of you in this audience or some kid isn't going to want that building to use for some bright idea that I haven't even thought of. But we can't do that now. But not only can we not do that, we threw $13,000 insurance money away, and we have half the building. And we have the other issue with it that the municipal league has already informed us. Since we didn't put all brand new steel on that building and the roof, and it's been heated up, if that roof rusts in 3 years, they won't pay a dime for it. Not a dime. Because they know that building was burnt. Doesn't have to burn the whole building. If you heat the tin up hot enough, you crack the propane or the porcelain coating on that tin, it's going to rust. Kind of like the old Nissan cars. Remember the first Japanese cars? You could hit them with your finger real hard. They'd rust from the inside out. Bad steel. I think we've got to come up with better ways of spending our money. And I think we're going to have to deal with the whole fee thing. To my understanding, there's at least 200 people that are going to show up here the first court date that haven't paid this fee. And I think there's even more that have decided since they didn't pay it, this next time coming up, they're not going to pay it. Now, the sad thing is there's no real reason not to pay the fee because we need the money for that. But I support the people being free and not wanting to pay that kind of money. We should not be spending that kind of money. In fact, the last year the commissioners ran the golf course, I believe there was $997,000 spent on that golf course, was their budget. Now, one of the reasons I put an administrator in there is they said there was $787,000 worth of vehicles. Well, how did they say it? Vehicles and I think equipment. There's no way. Charlie and I did an inventory when we took it over. There's no way. There's not even half of that there. I'd be surprised if there was $250,000 worth of stuff there. Where did that go? So part of being financially responsible, since 24, I have been asking Drew Smith, he's the prosecutor, and I'm sure a lot of you have talked to him. I've asked him for a forensic audit. And because of where the city's at, we tried to keep at least $189,000 in the general fund. We didn't like going below that. I don't think that fund has more than $49,000 in it now. That's a huge amount of money to try to make up. And we shouldn't be at that level. We shouldn't be doing this. We are going to get ourselves in trouble. One catastrophe. Thank God, Chris is a real good runner of the sewer department because some of those pumps, when they go, they're a fortune to replace. He's been able to build them up. Okay, he's been real good at stocking up on stuff we need for the water line. But how did he do that? He did that by me going to the employees the first year I was here and telling them, you're not going to drive these trucks home anymore every night. And we're not going to pay for diesel fuel and gas. We can't afford to do that. I wish we were a big city. It'd be nice if we were Batesville or Mountain Home. We don't have that kind of a population, and we cannot spend money like that we don't have, because it will come back and get us. We're a catastrophe away from being in trouble all over again. And we're facing a lot of trouble in the future, things that are still going to come up. So then this is weird because I had a really good conversation with Brad this afternoon about this, because this is an issue. Now, there's an Arkansas law, and you can get a copy of it. It's 1458-303, It says cities of a second class. It says the mayor or the mayor's duly authorized representative. Well, I haven't authorized anybody to represent me. Okay? Shall have exclusive power and responsibility to make purchases of all supplies, apparatuses, equipment, materials, and other things requisite for public purpose in and for the city, and to make all necessary contracts for work, labor to be done, or materials or other necessary things to be furnished for the benefit of the city, or in carrying out any work or undertaking of the public nature in the city. So that's what the law says. So the law says that basically these people aren't supposed to be spending this money because I haven't authorized them to spend any of it. It's supposed to all go through me, and none of it is. And I said to Brad, well, here's the law. This is an Arkansas law right here. And what I was told was that, well, yeah, that's the law, and it's true, but the law doesn't account unless you drag them into court and sue them for it, and then the judge can make this happen. Whether you agree with the council or not, and I don't, but this is the state of politics. This isn't just our council. This is in the whole United States. Okay, this is Trump's world. We don't have ambulance chasers anymore. We have politician chasers. Because to get something done, you get sued. You got to go to court. You have to fight for your rights to govern. It's ridiculous. And I don't know how things are going to work out with this. Now, the sad thing is, too, the fight that goes on here and the level of hatred in this city makes me want to throw up. And what's amazing is the people that bring it on have no realization that once you've hurt somebody, once you've tried to get them arrested, once you've tried to destroy them, they're not going to be your friend. It doesn't work that way. That's insanity, okay? That's abuse. If you've ever heard about abused women, that's the abused woman syndrome. Okay, you abuse somebody, you dehumanize them, you treat them like crap, but then you tell them, oh, it's okay, I'm your friend, and I only did it because I love you. You know, I only did it because I love the city. Yes, I went after things and I changed things in this city, but my goal wasn't to go after people. There were people that got in trouble here because they did illegal things. And I'm beginning to realize, too, that there's plenty of trouble that goes around and mistakes that I've made because even though we're paying $1,400 a month for an attorney, he doesn't know all the municipal stuff. I don't know all the municipal stuff. And we're going to make mistakes. But I'm hoping that at some point this city can start running better. And I think we need to come up with a better way of spending money. And I think if you disenfranchise a whole group of people, you're going to have one hell of a backlash here. We've lost so many good people that have moved out. We checked an internet site. There was over 500 and some odd properties for sale in this city. There's over 200 houses of people that have left because they don't want to be here. And that's what's really going to hurt you, because when your money people leave, you ain't going to have much left. Regular people are not going to pay to fix roads that are in terrible shape. I mean, we've got roads that have needed work for a long time. That's never been addressed of where we're going to come up with that money. I wish I could tell you I have a lot of answers here. I don't. But I know I'm getting sick of being treated like a piece of shit. I'm not. I'm the mayor. And whether you like me or not, I was duly elected just like you. Yes, smile, Sean. I was elected just like you, and actually more votes than you got. I was elected by over 500 and some. So if we can't come up with a way of doing better for the city, then I don't know where we're going to go, and I don't know what we're going to do. But it's sad that everything is going to end up in court. And hopefully the court cases are going to change a lot. I mean, that's true. There's a lot of that. But as citizens, it's your responsibility to do something too. American citizenship is hard. It requires you be educated, and it requires that you be active. I don't think you can just elect somebody and then sit at home and have a good time and hope everything's going to be okay. You know, we have to keep track of our money. We have to keep track of what's going on in our cities. We have to push people to go forward. And it's hard. I mean, there's a division in this country, and it's everywhere. It's not just here. It's throughout the whole United States that there are people that they don't disagree with people anymore. They hate each other. Okay? And that's one of the worst things, and you'll see that in politics this fall. People won't debate issues. They won't debate who has the better idea. They'll debate whether they hate you or not. They'll debate where you came from, what your accent's like, how much money you have. That's not a debate. A debate is ideas. What makes things work better? How can we fix this? How can we go forward? What's the best solution? That's a debate. If we don't focus on that, you're not going to have a city. I can tell you that for a fact. Thank you very much for coming. Please get active. Anybody that considers they want to be a part of the city and do stuff, I think you should do that. I've got a million other gripes I should share. I'm not going to share them with you here because this isn't about that. Stand up, citizens. You have more power than I do, believe it or not. You're the voters. Thank you for coming.